Okay, good morning, you guys. Happy Friday. Hayley over here. Hope you guys had a lovely week and have a lovely weekend ahead of you. We're going to get started in a seated position. So taking Sukhasana, crossing mid-calf. You can prop up your sits bones underneath the pillow or bolster, whatever you have at home if you want a little bit more height. This is a little uncomfortable for you. Take a deep inhale once you arrive. And then breath out. Just sigh everything out. And taking a couple moments to adjust the body, get out any fidgets or itches or uncomfortableness. And just starting to settle down into your space. Closing the eyes or keeping a soft gaze. And if your hands are on your knees, starting to imagine a space between the tops of your knees and the palms. Feeling this lightness. And avoiding having a ton of weight in the hands. See how light you can make your limbs. So no effort here except sitting up straight. And the effort is on the breath. And we'll take a box breath. So we'll inhale 4, pause 4, exhale 4, and then pause again for 4. And then we'll repeat that a number of times. So let's take a cleansing breath in. And then cleansing breath out. Next inhale, we'll breathe the air in for a count of 4. 3, 2, 1. Pausing for 4. 3, 2, 1. Exhaling for 4. 3, 2, 1. Pause for 4. 3, 2, 1. Inhaling. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause for 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pausing for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pausing for 4, 3, 2, 1. And keep going with this box breath. Maybe even expanding the length of each side. Maybe you go up to 5, maybe 8. See how slow and long you can make your breath. Take 2 more full cycles, whatever count you're taking. After your last round, we'll just shift over to hands and knees. So coming into table pose. So starting to find some natural movement in your table pose. Start to draw some circles. The shoulders over the wrists, circling the hips. You can keep your eyes closed here. We took circles, reversing the direction. Back through center. Neutral spine. We'll shift the hips off to the left side. And then gaze will shift over the left shoulder. So you're taking like a C shape with the spine. So press the right hip, right side of the body over to the right side. And then left hip over to the left side. So you're spreading your sits bones, creating a long spine. Just breathing here. Finding the space, right lung, right ribs, right outer hip. Come back through center, switch out the sides. So right hip over to the right, gaze over the right shoulder, left hip to left, expand through the left side of the body. Come back to your table pose. On your next breath in, shift the heart forward, let the belly fall, lift your tailbone, come into your cow. On your exhale, press the earth away below you, round the upper, the mid, and the low back, tuck the chin, cat. Inhale, cow. Exhaling, cat. Articulating the spine here. See how slow you can make these movements. Take this with your breath now. Attention comes to the vertebrae. So letting your exhales and inhales match the movement of the spine. So see how slow you can take the breath and how slow you can take these spinal movements, spinal rolls. Maybe even linger in a space that feels nice on your body. Then taking one last cycle of your cats and cows here. And we'll flip the palms face up towards one another. Your fingers will face one another. You can keep the arms long for for a little bit more intensity, a little less if you want. If you want a little less, bend the elbows. Keep the core active, so tailbone slightly tucked. So if you feel that tuck of the tailbone, your low belly will start to engage. And then release the hands. Come back through center. Let's face the fingers towards the knees. Start to sink the hips a little bit back towards the hips. Into some nice forearm stretching. And then come back to neutral hands. Tuck the toe. Actually, let's lengthen the legs back, tuck the toes. So you're at the top of a plank right away. So wide through the fingertips. Press down through the outside edges of the palms, through the fingertips. Find that foundation. Squeeze the forearms together. Chest is slightly forward, so you're keeping a long spine. Keep the gaze just a little bit, maybe in line with the pointer fingers. Collarbones wrap. Belly button in and up. Let's take a couple rocks forwards and backwards. Couple more rounds of breath here. Building heat right away. Deep inhale here. On your exhale, slowly lift the hips back up in space, downward facing dog. Find your movement. Let it flow naturally. Take a couple bounces, couple sways. Maybe lift a leg or two. And then in your down dog, we'll step in a foot, or step in just like the size of your foot. And then we'll step to the outside edges of the mat, so mat width. And then we'll reach the right hand over to the left ankle. Gaze under the left arm. We can do a little intense stretch, the left outer body. Maybe you might feel it in the right inner thigh. And then release the right hand down. Switching sides, left hand to right ankle. Gaze under the right arm. Releasing the left hand. Step back to your downward facing dog. On your next inhale, lift the heels, soften the knees. Press your chest back to the tops of your thighs. Keep pressing down into the thumbs. So we're working on lengthening out the spine, especially early in the morning after a night's rest, not really moving. Finding space in the back side of the body. Lift the sits bones up higher. Lift the heels up higher. Draw the chest closer to the tops of the thighs. Next inhale, wave the body forward, high plank. Exhale, soften through the knees, lift the hips back, up in space, downward facing dog. 3 more times just like that. Soften the knees, lift the heels, wave the body forward, top of a plank. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, wave the body forward. Wave the body back. Last time here, roll forward, high plank. Next, exhale, lower all the way down to the belly. Untuck the toes. Press into the hands, squeeze the elbows. Lift the chest, baby cobra. Keep squeezing the ankles. Press into the tops of the feet. Exhale to lower. Tuck the toes, press yourself back, child's pose. Let the knees fall wide, keep the toes tucked. Pause here for 3 cycles of breath. Just relieving the shoulders, relieving the wrists for a moment. And then from here, right arm threads underneath the left. Just coming into a little thread the needle, opening up the right shoulder blade. Left arm can stay out in front of you. Release the right hand down in front. Left arm threads underneath the right. Set the left cheek on the mat. Left shoulder. And breathe into the space between the shoulder blades. And feel the breath trickle all the way down the spine. Release through center. Start to crawl the fingers forward. Anahata Asana puppy pose. So just working a little bit of floor work here. Stay lifted through the palms, stay on fingertips. So we're taking a little active variation. Try to keep the hips in line with the knees. So we're working some floor work here just to prep the body for some sun salutations so that we can be pretty open, not as stiff as we can be in the morning. Keep the belly button lifted. With every inhale, how long can you make the torso? And every exhale, can you soften into that space? Walk the hands back in. Lift the hips back. Downward facing dog. Pedal out the feet for a moment. Inhale, lift the heels, bend the knees, gaze forward. And then exhale, tiptoe your feet all the way to the front of the mat. Let's land the feet hips width behind the ribs. Maybe even tap the ribs with the toes. Hands can grab opposite triceps. Generous bend in the knees here. Sway the upper body back and forth. So our folds come from our low back, or forward folds. So really thinking about when you fold, you're starting from the sits bones, from the tailbone area, and then the low back, all the way up the spine. So finding length through the spine first, and then folding forward. Top of the head hangs heavy. Release the elbows. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Slowly make your way up to standing. So we've been inverted for quite some time, so really take your time here. Top of the head lefts to rise. Roll the shoulders down the back once you arrive. Palms face forward. Press the hips forward. On your inhale, arms rise. Exhale, cactus the arms. Then interlace the hands behind the low back. Trace the hips with the fist. Keep the chest open. Lift the chest to the sky. Just a micro back bend. I know it's early for me. It's really challenging. Soften through the knees. Take your fold forward. Try to keep the hands interlaced. Maybe take a little sway Opening up the fronts of the arms. Release the hands at the low back first, then to the earth. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step back, downward facing dog. Lift the heels, bend the knees. Wave the body forward, high plank. This time, exhale to lower halfway. Cobra or upward facing dog. Let's pause here, let's linger a little bit. So pressing into the tops of the feet. Squeeze the ankles. Reaching up through the top of the head, lengthen through the spine. Gaze over the right shoulder, just opening up the neck. Gaze over the left shoulder. Then roll the hips back, downward facing dog. Pedal out the feet for a moment. Lift the heels, come to the toes. Let's lower the heels off to the right side. Bend through the right knee. You'll land the inside of the left foot. Right heel can stay lifted. Gaze under the left arm. So we did some side body opening earlier. Now we're getting into that a little bit more. Wave the body forwards. We're in Vinyasa, side plank, right side. Left fingers can stay on the earth. On our next exhale, we'll press the hips back. Inhale, forward side plank. Exhale, press back. Hips to heels. One more time, inhale, side plank. Let's hold. You can stay with the left fingers down. Maybe they rise to the top of the room. Right knee can always lower. Holding here for 3 rounds of breath, building that strength. Plant through the left hand. Pedal out the feet, downward facing dog. Lift the heels and then drop them over to the left side. Inside edge of the right foot lands. Left heel can stay lifted, gaze under the right arm. Next, inhale, wave the body forward. Vinyasa, side plank, left side. Stand right fingertips. And then press the hips back towards the heels. Just take a little squat. And then inhale, Vinyasa. Exhale, press back. Inhale, forward. Let's pause here, Vinyasa, left side. Right fingers might trace the sky. Keep pressing into the left hand. Lift the hips up higher. How present can you stay in this pose? Noticing all the body parts that might be quivering, shaking. All the body parts that are active. Lower through the right hand. Downward facing dog. This time adding in a funky chaturanga. We were doing this last week, so if you joined in those classes, we're going to be doing them. Hope you didn't hate them, but we're just trying to build strength in the upper body. So we'll lift the heels, bend the knees, bend the elbows. Wave the body forward into your chaturanga right away. Exhale, high plank. Downward facing dog. This time, inhale, bend the knees, wave forward. Exhale, chaturanga. Cobra or upward facing dog. Exhaling, downward facing dog. So we'll build on from there, making that our base sun salutation. On your next inhale, lift the heels. Exhale, step, hop, float, feet to the outside of the hands. Let's pause here for a moment in the Malasana Yogi squat. So the next time we run through this, we're going to be taking more of an active squat which is when the hips are a little bit higher. Just for the moment, soaking up a little bit of a deeper stretch, just prepping the hips and our thighs, catching the breath. Reach the arms out in front of us. Reach the sits bones down to the earth. Drive down into your heels. On your next inhale, use the power of your legs to lift you up. Maybe a little back bend at the top. Cactus the arms, press the hips forward. And then interlace the hands the opposite way you did last time. Wiggle the feet underneath the hips. Draw the fists down, the glutes. Baby back bend. And then exhale to fold forward. Keep the interlace just for a moment. We'll speed things up in a little bit. And then lower the fists to the low back. Then to the earth. Inhale to your Ardha Uttanasana, halfway lift. Exhale, Uttanasana, fold. Plant the palm, step your way back, high plank. Inhale, lift the heels, bend the knees, wave the body forward. Exhaling, Chaturanga. Cobra or upward facing dog. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Lift the heels, lower them off to the right side, sink the hips closer to the heels. And then wave forward, come into your Vashisthasana, hold here. Left fingertips can rise. Lower the left hand down. Downward facing dog, heels rise. Right away, lower them over to the left. We've been here before. Press the hips back towards the heels. Next inhale. Vashisthasana, side plank. Left side, right fingers rise. Lower the right hand. Hips high. Lift the heels, bend the knees. So creating that length through the spine. And then if you need to look up, if you didn't catch on last time, it's a little weird. We'll move from our down dog right away into our Chaturanga. So you're really waving, just heading right into it. On your exhale, press the ground away. High plank, then downward facing dog. Inhale, roll the body forward. Exhale, this time Chaturanga. Cobra or upward facing dog. So just a different way to enter your Chaturanga. So building upper body strength. Lift the heels, bend the knees. Exhale, step hop or hop the feet to the outside of the hands. This time keeps the hips slightly elevated. Active squat. Reach the arms out in front, maybe biceps next to the ears. Sink just a little bit deeper here, activating the quads. Keep the tailbone slightly lifted, so avoid tucking it. So when we keep the tailbone a little lifted, we're activating the quads. Next, inhale, press the ground away, lift up. Baby back bend, cactus the arms. Then interlace behind the low back. Walk the feet underneath the hips. Reach the chest to the sky. Your next exhale, take your fold. Release the hands. Halfway lift. Find length through the top of the head. On your exhale, downward facing dog. Roll forward, high plank. Exhale, Chaturanga. Cobra or upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Lift the heels, lower them off to the right side. Then wave forward, side plank, Vashisthasana. This time, maybe lift the left foot. Then lower through or lift up through downward facing dog. Heels high, then lower them off to the left. Press the hips back for a moment. Vashisthasana, left side. Maybe right toes rise with the right fingers. Downward facing dog. Lift the heels, bend the knees. Bend the elbows towards the knees. Make your way into your chaturanga. Exhale, high plank, down dog. Inhale, roll forward, high plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Cobra or upward facing dog. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Lift the heels, step, hop, float. Feet to outside of hands. Active squat. One more inhale here. Exhale. Inhale, rise. Cactus the arms. Interlace the hands behind the low back. Wiggle the feet underneath the hips. Releasing forward. Hands to earth. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step, hop, float, chaturanga. Cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. We'll take this sequence once more. Lift the heels, drop them over to the right, press the hips back. Then forward, Vashisthasana, side plank. Try to make this as graceful as possible with control. Downward facing dog. Lift the heels, lower them to the left. Side plank, left side. Try lifting the toes and fingers at the same time. Downward facing dog. Coming into your little crouching position. Bend the elbows, bend the knees. Right away, chaturanga. Exhaling. Downward facing dog. Inhale, roll forward to your high plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Over or upward facing dog. Exhaling. Downward facing dog. Lift the heels, bend the knees, gaze forward. Exhale, active squat. Top of the mat. Full inhale here. Full exhale. Inhale to rise. Exhale to cactus the arms. Interlace behind the low back. Draw the fist out. Draw the chest up. Exhale, take your fold, release. Halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhaling, Chaturanga Dandasana. Meet in a downward facing dog. Lift the heels. Lower them off to the right side. Sink the hips closer to the heels. And then wave forward, Vashisthasana, side plank. So we're going to be adding on here. So lift the left toes. Try to find your balance. Lower the left hand down. Taking things just on the right side now. Lift the right heel to the sky. Bend the knee, open the hip. You can find stillness or offer in some movement. And then we'll draw the left or the right knee over to the right shoulder. Hold here. We're going to draw a square, so lower to the right wrist. Left wrist, left tricep, right tricep, And step the foot between the hands. Lower the left knee and tuck the toes. On your inhale, on fingertips, heart forward. On your exhale, shift the hips back. Peel the right toes off the mat. Half splits. Hopefully you're feeling pretty warm. I know I am because we don't have central AC. I basically have a hot yoga studio at my apartment. Draw the right hip back, left hip forward. See how that activates the hamstring. Start to crawl the hands back forward. Plant the right foot, bend the knee. Inhale, Vinyasa, arms rise. Exhale, hands come behind the skull. Fan out the front line of the body. And then release hands to frame the front foot. Weight in the right foot. Tuck the left toes, lift the knee. Standing splits. Lift the left heel high to the sky. And then soften through the right knee. Touch the left toes down. Keep them tucked. On your inhale, rising up. Vinyasa, high lunge. On your next exhale, open twist to the right side. Right hand can find the back of the left thigh. Taking this into your revolved crescent. Lift the left heel higher, sink the right knee lower. Squeeze the inner thigh, stay strong through the low body, stay lifted through the upper body. Your next exhale, start to lower the left hand down, right fingers stay lifted. We'll take this into our wild thing on the left side. So shift and spin the feet to the back of the room. Start to lift the hips up to the top of the room. Reach the right fingers overhead, releasing the front of the body. And then hug the right knee to the chest. You can land the right fingertips. Spin the left toes forward, left heel lifted. Cross the right ankle over the left thigh. You can shorten your stance, so maybe walk the hands back. So you're in a down dog with a pigeon. Press the right hip back or right knee back to open up the right outer hip. And then slowly release three-legged dog. And then you can take a three-legged chaturanga or downward facing dog. Before we go to the other side, we'll add in 3 of those chaturanga funky push-ups that we've been doing this last week. Lift the heels, bend the knees, bend the elbows. Right away, make your way, chaturanga. Exhale, high plank, downward facing dog. Find a rhythm that works for you. Lift the heels, bend the knees, bend the elbows. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, hold. Exhale, high plank, down dog. One last time here. Bend the knees, bend the elbows, press the chest back. Chaturanga, take an inhale, hold. Exhale, high plank, downward facing dog. Paddle out the feet here. Lift the left heel. Bend the knee, stack the hip. You can offer in movement here. And then on your next exhale, we'll draw the knee to the left tricep, down to the left wrist, over to the right wrist, up to the right tricep,
to the left tricep. And then step the foot between the hands with control. Land the right knee and tuck the toes. Staying on fingertips, reach the heart forward. On your exhale, hip shift back. Peel the left toes off the earth. Coming into your half splits. You guys, I'm soaked over here. I don't know what it is. Maybe my practice. It's a little challenging today. Detoxifying over here. So draw the right hip back, left hip forward. Stay lifted through the heart. Fold over the front leg. And start to land back through the left foot. Reach the arms overhead on Vinyasa. Exhale, hands come behind the ears. Fan out the front line of the body. Sink a little deeper in the left knee. And release the hands to frame the front foot. Tuck the right toes, lift the right knee. Shift the weight forward, standing splits top of the mat. Lift the right heel as high as you can. Fold the nose closer to the left knee. Start to land the right toes down. Use the strength of your legs and your core to lift you up into your high lunge. Square off the hips. Lift the right heel higher, lower through the left knee. Take an inhale, energize through your fingertips. On your exhale, open twist to the left side. So just activating the spine, wringing out the upper body. Stay here, or you can take your revolved crescent. Left hand to the back of the right thigh. Right fingers overhead. Sink the hips deeper. Find your breath. Find your moment. With control, start to lower the right hand down. Left fingers to the sky. We'll take this into our wild thing. So weight in the right hand, start to spin the body up and open. Right toes to the back of your room. Left toes will find behind the right leg. Press into the feet to lift the hips. Right fingertips or left fingers forward. Closing this out. Keep the left knee hugged in. Left hand can touch the mat. And spin right toes forward, right heel lifts. Cross the left ankle over the right thigh. So we're in a standing or a pigeon. You can walk the hands back. So stretching out the left outer hip. Try to press the chest closer to the thighs. Keep the left toes flexed. And then releasing the left foot next to the right. Roll the body forward, high plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Cobra or upward facing dog. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Last time here for those funky chaturanga push-ups. We're just taking this 3 more times. You got this. Lift the heels, bend the knees, bend the elbows. Right away, chaturanga. Inhale. Exhale, high plank down dog. Keep the belly button in. Core active. Bend the knees, bend the elbows. Chaturanga, inhale. Exhale, high plank down dog. Last time here, you guys. Lift the heels. Bend the knees, bend the elbows. Chaturanga. Inhale, hold. Exhale, high plank down dog. Lift the heels, bend the knees. Step or hop the feet to the outside of the hands, active squat. Hold here. And then we'll keep lowering the hips closer to the ground. And then you can meet in your malasana. Knees to triceps, triceps to knees. And stay here in your malasana. If you haven't had enough, you can land in Vinyasa curl pose. You can plant the hands. Maybe just work lifting one toe off the mat. Maybe you're lifting both feet. But keep that connection between the knees and triceps. Plant the hands. If you're taking Bakasana, otherwise stay with the hips low. We'll see how this works. I'm a little sweaty. Hold here for 3, 2, 1. Option for a chaturanga, or head to your down dog. If you're in Malasana, stay there. We'll join you at the top of the mat in a second. Lift the heels, bend the knees. Step or hop your feet to the outside of the hands. Malasana Yogi Squat. Let's take a little forearm and wrist massage. So lift the hips up a little bit. Draw the hands back. And then put the forearms in between the calf and the thigh, or the hamstring. So you'll sink the hips down, so you'll feel a little bit of pressure. Then you can wiggle back and forth. A little self-massage. And you can maybe even lift the hips up, lower. Just finding a little area that feels best on your forearms, on your wrists. And then release the arms out in front of you, lower the hips. Navasana boat pose. Last little bit of effort here. So you can keep the shins bent. Let's keep the hands on the ground. I feel like that activates the core and legs a little more because it forces you to keep the chest open. 2 more cycles of breath, and then we'll lower into our low boat. 1 last inhale. On your exhale with control, Ardha Navasana. Heels and shoulders are lifted. We'll hold here for 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Full body stretch. You made it onto your backs. That's all downhill from here. We'll plant the feet like we would for bridge pose. Hands can come next to the hips. Take an inhale, prepare. On your exhale, keep the tailbone tucked. Lift the pelvis. Hands can walk underneath the hips, maybe interlace. Shoulders can walk underneath the chest. Releasing all this compression that we've done. The front side of the body. Just lingering here. In this openness, expansiveness, space. And then we'll release the hands, lower the hips, bring the feet to the outside edges of the mat, and windshield wiper the legs a couple times. And then drawing the knees to the armpits. Take your happy baby pose. So hips should be pretty open since we worked Malasana a couple times. Active squats. Allow this to hopefully be a little bit more effortless than it
otherwise would be. Try not to tug, but think about the hands as being super heavy and just adding that pressure into the legs to draw them down closer to the armpits. Try not to force anything, just allowing it to be what it is. Allowing gravity to help. Release the knees to chest, Apana-asana. You can lift the shoulder blades off the mat. And like cactusing the arms out. Lift the hips off to the right. Let the legs lower to the left side. Keep the right shoulder blade rooted. Maybe the gaze shifts over the right shoulder. Knees back through center. Lift them off to the left side. Lift the hips off to the left. And then we'll let the legs fall over to the opposite side. You can shift the gaze over the right shoulder or the left shoulder if that feels okay on the neck. Come back through center. Press into the feet, lift the hips up just to reset your spine. And then we'll take shoulder stand, or if you're okay on the neck, if you don't know shoulder stand, if you've never gotten into it, let's just take Supta Baddha Konasana, or you can draw heels to the sky for a more gentle inversion. If you can safely arrive into a shoulder stand, hands will come behind the hips. I'll press into the triceps. Lift the hips, hands to low hips, and try to stack the hips over the shoulders. Quite intense pose, so if you feel any pain, backing out of this. And keep the gaze at the top of the room if you're taking this variation. If you want to transition into Halasana, plow pose, feel free to take that if that is also a part of your practice. Next couple cycles of breath, we'll meet in our Supta Baddha Konasana. Heels together, knees wide. Take your time to arrive to that space, no rush. Once you arrive to your backs, one hand on the belly, one hand on the chest. Again, working out any last bits of tension in the body. Unwinding here. The eyes fall closed. Let the breath become softer. So try not to rush off to the next thought or even next activity you have in your day. How present can you allow this moment to be, even if it's just for a millisecond? Noticing any sensations you're having throughout the body or in the space around you. Naming 5 senses or 5 sensations that you're feeling, or you're experiencing rather. Allow that to bring you down back into the present moment. Just a grounding activity. And staying in your Shavasana for as long as you can this morning. And then when your practice feels complete versus rushing off to the next thing, knowing the difference, and you can guide yourself out of this experience that you're currently having. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. From my heart to yours, namaste.